Hello everyone, welcome to my video tutorial. In today, we will be talking one of the most important lessons in English language, particularly in grammar, and that is the subject and verb agreement. Okay, so since we're talking about subject and verb agreement, we will be talking and defining what a subject is, what a verb is, and what an agreement is. And why do we need to discuss this? What's the reason of talking about this? We can even talk and write anyway. Well, the reasons why we need to talk about it because we want to avoid grammatical mistakes in talking and writing. Two important skills that everyone is doing or even using every day. Well, it's very important that we should know the rules of the subject and verb agreement because we don't want to be embarrassed. We don't want to be laughed at if we use incorrect subject and verb in our sentences. So at this point, we will be talking about definitions of each of the word. Let's start with the subject. How do we know that it is the subject in the sentence? Now, there are three definitions that I have here. Number one is a subject is a name of person, place, thing, or idea that is doing the action and being described. All right? So when we say name, this can be common or proper names of person, of place, of thing, or even an idea. And we call these proper or common as a noun, which is a part of speech that names a person, place, or thing. Or in the absence of noun, we use pronoun because pronoun is also a part of speech that replaces or substitutes the noun. Now, these are actually examples that I have here, like the word teacher. So teacher does not specify a name, so that is a common name of a person. Now, Mr. Perez, now it is a proper name because it specifies a name of a person. Philippines, it's a name of a country. It's a proper name. And love is an idea. It answers the question, who performs the action or what is doing the action. Okay, so we're talking about now, when we talk about the who there, we talk about these are persons or people. And when we talk about what is doing the action, these are the places, things, or ideas. Okay, number three is usually or most of the time, subject is found at the beginning of the sentence. Okay, most of the time, subjects are found at the beginning of the sentence, excluding the modifiers. And what are these modifiers? These are actually descriptors, or we call these words that describe the subject. It can be a one-word descriptor or two words or a phrase or a clause. Okay, well, we'll be talking of those lessons as we go ahead. After defining what a subject is, let us talk about a verb. So what is a verb? How do we know that it's a verb in a sentence? Now, there are two definitions of verb that I have here. Number one, verb is an action word, which definitely pertaining to the actions that you do every day. Everything that you do is an action. In other words, these are done by the subject itself. Okay? And what are the examples to this? Like what you're doing right now. So let's say I walk, also walk. Like listen, like shout, pray, write, and drink. So these are actually action words. Now you think what you're doing right now is an example of an action word. Now, another definition of a verb is a state of being. We call this state of being verbs or linking verbs because this pertains to our senses, including words that link, that bridge, that connect. These are words. And definitely these words are called linking verbs. So in other words, we call these words that describe or complement the subject. We use this verb to connect the subject and its complement. Okay, so what are examples to these verbs? Let's say become, seen, feel, is, are, am, was, and were. So these are actually state of being verbs. Okay, take note that a group of words without a verb cannot be a sentence. However, an action word, which is a verb, alone is considered a sentence. So you get what I mean? Okay, let's have these examples. Number one, the leader in the band. So definitely it's not a subject, it's just a phrase. We have here teachers and students, also a phrase. It can be a noun phrase or objective phrase, so like that. So it's a sentence too. But the word run, you see, it's capitalized and there is a punctuation mark there, and that is period. That is a sentence. And the second one is talk. That's also a sentence because it gives instruction to someone to do the action. Now, if we're talking about different kinds of sentences according to functions, we will be dealing of these one of the kinds of sentences that is imperative. It talks about asking favor or giving instruction. You see the letter R and the letter T is capitalized and there's a punctuation mark at the end. One of the lessons that we'll be talking about is mechanics in writing. We will be talking about capitalization, punctuations, spelling. So that's mechanics in writing. So that's a separate lesson, okay? Now this time, let's define what an agreement is. So an agreement, according to Merriam-Webster, is a harmony of opinion, action, or character. So harmony, so they go together. It's a contract duly executed, and both parties arrange its course for understanding. Both parties understand that this is actually an arrangement for understanding. Okay, number two, we have Cambridge Dictionary, and that is condition of having the same opinion or a decision or arrangement between two or more people or groups to do something or to obey the same rules. So it talks about rules. So that's going to be what an agreement is. Next, from Oxford English Dictionary, it is a negotiated and typically legally binding arrangement between parties as to a course of action. All right? So we have their keyword arrangement. So it is understood on both parties of the course of the action. Therefore, agreements are rules as to how many do the action and how many actions are done. So when we say rules, these are actually synonymous to agreement. And when we talk about how many do the action, it talks about the subject because subject performs the action. And how many actions are done, so meaning this is also a verb. So the question, how many, deals about the number of people do the action and the action being done. So in grammar, when we talk about subject-verb agreement, the word number does not tell about 1, 2, 3, but it talks about the singularity and plurality of subject and verb. So when we say singular, that's one person doing the action. When we say plural, that is two or more people doing the action. But the question is, how do you know that the subjects and verbs in the sentence are singular and plural? Before we proceed with a lot of rules in subject-verb agreement, it is prerequisite to know the general rule of the subject and verb agreement. And what is the general rule? It says singular subject needs or requires singular verb, and then plural subject needs or requires plural verb. Now, how do we know that it's singular? How do we know it's going back to the question? How do we know it's singular? How do we know that it's plural? I have here a tabular presentation for you to determine what is a singular subject and what is a singular verb and plural subject and plural verb. So we have here subject and the verb, of course. So let's focus first on the singular part. Okay, let's have the singular. So I will give you the word boy. Well, it says there, the word boy is singular subject, if it is used as subject in a sentence, okay? But about the verb? Let's say the verb walk. In order for the verb walk to be singular, we should add s there. In some other words, we use es, like for example, word discuss. So we're going to put es there. It will become discusses, okay? Let's talk about plural. Of course, when we talk about plural subject, we have to add s there. But in some cases, we put es as well in some other words of subject. Now, how do we know that it's plural verb? We have there the word walk will remain itself. Okay, we have to retain the word walk if we're talking about plural verb. So we will not put is or es there. So what did you notice? What did you notice? Okay, we have the singular subject boy and then the plural subject boys. The singular verb walks and then the plural verb walk. So it says there, singular subject needs singular verb. So, boy and walks must go together. Boys and walk must also go together. Do not be confused with that. Okay, in short, if the subject has no S, look at that. If the subject has no S, the verb has S. And that is singular. Okay, again, if the subject has no S, the verb has S, and that should be singular. On the other hand, if the subject has S, the verb has no S, and that is plural. Okay, so you get the difference of the two. Do not be confused. Singular subject needs singular verb. And how do we know that singular subject? There is no S. How do we know that it is singular verb? There is S there. Now, plural subject requires S or ES, while plural verb does not. So do not be confused in that. So to elaborate further, I have here 5 sentences. I want you to try these sentences below. Number 1, this notebook belongs to me. The miniature look elegant and beautiful. Mothers know what is best for their children. Plants need water and sunlight to grow and survive. Number 5, our project take too much of our time and effort to complete it. Now, what do you think is the answer for this? I have another tabular presentation. Okay, let's say number 1. What do you think is the subject? What do you think is the subject for number 1? So that is notebook, correct. Okay, that's what we call simple subject. And since, look at that, notebook is only one, this is singular. Therefore, it requires a singular verb, and that is belongs. So you see, notebook has no S, our verb should have S. Number 2, what about number 2? Miniature is our subject, and that should be, the verb is looks. Okay, so we have here, miniature has no S, looks has S on it. So that's singular as well. Number 3, that's mothers are our subject, mothers as our subject. Look at mothers, there is S there, so the verb should have no S, and that is no. Okay, what about number 4? We have plants as our subject. Therefore, there is an S there. Therefore, our verb should have no S. And number 5 is project is the subject. There is no S. Therefore, the verb has S in it. So did you get the difference of the two? It's just the opposite of it. So if the subject has no S, the verb has. On the other hand, if the subject has S, the verb has no S. All right. Thank you very much for watching. And for those who have not subscribed my channel, this is Joseph Reculio. You may subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you will be updated of the new posted videos that I will have. I will be focusing this time about some tutorial classes for your guide. Thank you very much and have a good day.